It's hard to compete with someone over there who's telling 6-year-olds to turn up. I'm here to cook some vegetables. How are you today? Super cool. I picked 2 super simple vegetable recipes that I make a lot. I didn't pick broccoli or bok choy. You know, kids, I have a 6-year-old. She's so not into the broccoli. Let's not kid ourselves. But I did pick 2 things that I really love. Tomatoes, which are so delicious, and I feel like I can always get my daughter to eat them. And I actually mix them with some, you know, I always like to sneak in something and just tell her that it's super crunchy and she should eat it. And we'll talk about it afterwards. And that usually works out really well. So with the tomatoes, I've got a little bit of celery hearts. So your classic head of celery, if you tear away these, which you use for stuff like peanut butter and... Sorry, it's just kind of hard, right, not to get swept up in it. But when you peel away the ones that you use for ants on a log, cream cheese, peanut butter, whatever you use, snacks, fun stuff, you get to this really good part that we don't talk about enough. This is the celery heart. This kind of dies in the bottom of your crisper drawer with those 2 turnips you bought that you're never going to cook, that you told yourself you would make, or that are left over from Thanksgiving, and now it's, you know, Memorial Day, and you're like, wow. So dig this little guy out of the bottom of your crisper, because this is where the super delicious stuff in the celery is at. These super crunchy little stalks in the middle, and these leaves are really tasty. I actually use them a lot like an herb, chopped up and mixed into stuff. I mean, come on, look at that. That's sexy, people. Do you agree, kids? Are you getting excited about celery? Not really. In the front row, he's like, I don't know. Okay, so I just take this, and you can just cut it up with a scissor. These beautiful, now the thing about the leaves and the stalks is it's the yellow ones that are super tasty. Once you get into kind of the green leaf territory, not as tasty as those little yellow hearts. Then I just spread out the tomatoes. And I mean, come on, I think tomatoes are just super inviting, just as is. So what I do is to make a little tomato salad, I think a big part of vegetables is making them really inviting to eat. Because as you notice, if you make a 20-layer cake and you cover it with 10 pounds of frosting, people just say, wow, I love that. Vegetables need a little bit more dressing up, you know, to kind of pass muster. So I just spread some tomatoes out in a single layer, season them. I just with some cracked pepper, preferably black pepper. I think it has a little bit more of a bite. And a pinch of salt, and I let them sit like that for a few minutes and hang out. You know, they kind of sweat, like when you go in the sauna and the spa, and you say, I was in here 10 minutes, I lost 20 pounds, and I can now eat 2 hot fudge sundaes, when in fact you probably gained a pound when you drank the water, that kind of thing. So for the vinaigrette, I like to take a little bit of brown sugar. I just like the dark brown sugar, I like that deep flavor. I take just 2 teaspoons of that, and I mix it with a few tablespoons of an apple cider vinegar, which I always seem to have left over from barbecue sauce or whatever. So I'll admit, it wasn't a romantic choice when I made this vinaigrette. I was like, what do I have left over? Don't you feel like recipes send you to the store to buy 8 gallons of 14 containers, and they're like, take a tiny quarter of a teaspoon, and you had to buy a tub like this big? They're like, ground allspice, go buy it. You need 1 pinch, be careful. And you've got like a quart of it. You're like, what am I gonna do with this, right? We'll get to that next time. So just dissolve the sugar and the apple cider vinegar together. So tasty, right? A little bit of pepper and salt in there. Olive oil, a little bit more than the vinegar, and about, yes, 3 tablespoons of just microplane grated fresh ginger. And this almost has a little bit of heat to it. Ginger gets a little bit spicy, which I kind of like. Ooh, that needs salt. Don't you notice on cooking shows, everything's perfect? People make it, they're like, oh my God, this is so good. You're like, no, it's not. Not everything you make could not be good. Because I've made stuff on cooking shows and been like, what the hell did I do? What happened here? Anyway, a little bit of salt, taste it. I put a little bit of these celery hearts and stalks in there. Toss it in the dressing and just put that right over those tomatoes. And it's super juicy. And the ginger really goes great with the tomatoes. So that's my juicy little salad. Kids, you love tomatoes, right? I got a yes. I got a serious yes in the front row. I've got my little VIP section here, the kids, especially the stroller set. She's getting really enthusiastic. So that's one thing. I also picked some neat stuff right now out of the White House garden, which is kind of cool. I just went in there with my scissor. I was like, I'm gonna just cut everything. Then I went in, it was all so pretty. I almost couldn't, I kind of went up and clipped one thing and felt like I was gonna get arrested. But I got some chive flowers, which I just think are really amazing. I'm actually gonna pass these around so you can look at them. I want everybody to manhandle some flowers. You gotta take a little nose bath and see how much these flowers smell like chives. I also got some flowering thyme. Here's the flowering thyme. And this is, sorry, I think I crossed the street. And that, hello? And that's some flowering thyme. So I think we kind of think when herbs flower that that's it. You put them in a bouquet in your bathroom and you're like, look how farm to table I am. There's even flowers in my bathroom that I can eat. But these are actually really delicious. Especially the flowering thyme, like I might put a little bit right over these tomatoes. And you often have the little seeds in with the flowers because it's starting to go to seed, the herb, and you get this really intense flavor of the thyme or of the basil or of the chives. Because all these herbs flower and they're really delicious. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, a question. Oh, meet me over there for your 20 bucks. That was really, I liked your timing. I'm glad we talked. Any questions? Are you all excited by the flowering herbs or what? This is the kind of stuff that I get excited about. Okay, so let's make something hot. This is something my mother made. Are you getting into the chives over there? Aren't they beautiful? I'm getting into something seriously. You know how everybody's like, oh, my grandmother made this for me when I was 2, and I feel really romantic about it. This is something that my grandmother never made for me. But that my mom made a lot. And I have this memory standing over her. I mean, my nose could barely reach the counter. But I used to watch her make this, and it seemed, even when I was a kid, like something that I could make. Just a little bit of shallot or red onion with some garlic. And I'm talking serious garlic, okay? Ladies, gentlemen, do not be cheap with the garlic with me, okay? I don't like that. This is a couple of cloves. Very big ones. Oh my God, I should slow down. How does he do it? All right. Now look, whenever I start cooking, the first thing I do when I put something in a pan is I add a little pinch of salt and add a little bit of pepper. You know, we talk a lot about getting kids to eat or getting excited about cooking at home. One of the best things you can do to make cooking exciting at home is to build so much good flavor that you're actually excited to sit down and eat what you make. Sometimes you cook so long, by the time you get to the table with your food, you're like, I don't want to eat this. I'm going to eat a donut over here while you guys eat the whole Thanksgiving dinner I made. Do you ever do that? Literally, I've made a turkey stuffing everything and then just put my head in the freezer and eaten a quart of ice cream while everybody's in the other room eating the turkey. They're like, where's the ice cream for the pie? And I'm like, I forgot. I don't know what happened. So just start by building a foundation of really good flavor by sweating a little bit of garlic and shallot. And now, remember those thyme flowers I picked off? I've still got those stalks of thyme. This is another thing that winds up in the graveyard of my crisper. I buy a bunch of thyme. I use 6 sprigs. I'm super excited about myself. And then I have the rest of it kind of hanging out in the drawer, right? So it's really good if you just use herbs sometimes like a temporary infusion. Just put a little bit of the thyme in there, cook it a little bit, and then pull the thyme out, throw it away. So you get the flavor, but no one knows it was there. So people say, why does this taste so good? And you say, I really don't know. You know, but it's our secret. You see, don't tell anybody, okay? All right, a little bit of oil, sweating the garlic and onions, which is never a bad thing. And then just a little bit of white button mushroom. Such a good mushroom. These have been peeled. But you don't have to if they're nice and clean. Just give them a little wash I am a fan of washing mushrooms if there's dirt on them. You know, there's this sort of idea, take a damp paper towel and wipe off every mushroom. I can't do that. I'm too hungry. I just dunk them quickly under water, take them out, slice them, and go for it. Don't wash mushrooms ahead of time. You wash them and then you let them hang out in the fridge. They get really droopy and sad. Any questions so far? Nothing. Okay, good chat. I'll just keep my head down here and keep cutting mushrooms. Okay. So I've got my garlic and onions sweating. And you can see actually salt, a little bit of salt and that thyme, trying to send like a nose bath wave your way so you can smell this. Then just add the mushrooms right on top of that. Just white button. I don't mix all different kinds or get romantic because white button mushrooms are super meaty. And I can actually get my daughter to eat this too. The other important thing I wanted to say about getting kids to eat and talking about the topic is that I refuse to admit that my daughter doesn't like something unless I've cooked it and eaten it in front of her at least 20 times. That's when I give up. I don't care if she eats it. I eat it. She's like, what are you eating? I'm like, you can't have any. You cannot have any of this endive, radicchio, arugula salad that is so good. And she's eating her chicken. She's like, I'm like, you want to try it? And then I go in too early and she goes, oh no. So I just keep doing it. Let me just tell you guys, I ate broccoli like 80 times. I would have broccoli counseling sessions with my friends. I'd be in the other room like, she looked at it tonight. She made eye contact with it. I'm getting somewhere. But I have to tell you, in a lot of cases, her just watching me eat it, just the example, I didn't think that was gonna do the job. I really didn't. I had zero faith. It really worked. I just kept eating. I went to my broccoli hand-holding groups. You know, we did like a circle of trust in the Hudson River. It was great. We cried, we laughed, we loved it. And then she just started, and now she says, can you make some broccoli? And I'm like, oh yeah. And then I go in the other room and I'm like, and then I come out and, is he gonna do that? No, I'm kidding. All right, so you just get that sweating. Can you smell this at all? No way, right? It's just blowing in my direction, I'm sorry. Question, can you taste it? Totally. You'd like to taste it too? I better cut some more mushrooms. You guys don't ask questions, but you're a tough crowd. I like it. Everybody's like, if she makes something good, I'm gonna ask her. Otherwise, she's chopped. All right, so, and by the way, you don't have to get romantic about this. You can dice up the onions and the garlic kind of small, but you don't have to cut the mushrooms that small. In half or in thirds is perfectly fine. A little bit more salt. Every time I add something, I add a little bit more seasoning. It's like paying taxes. Yes. You heard not to salt mushrooms because it pulls the liquid out and makes them soupy. You just fell right into my hands. I love you. I'm also gonna give you 20 bucks. Meet me over there. Let me ask you this though. If you have a vegetable that's filled with water, what happens when you take the water away? What are you left with? Really good taste. You know what I mean? So that's what salt does. Salt's like, get out of there. Well, salt is homeland security for flavor. I thought that was appropriate to say right here, right? Did you like that little nuance? I mean, guys, come on, a little something? For God's sake, tough crowd. Salt does draw out water, and you want to do that. That's what you want to do. You know what else really works? A little squeeze of agave, a little pinch of sugar in the right, any form. A dot of like a local honey, anything. Sometimes a tiny dot of sugar can push salt along with it. And you get that kind of, when you eat like 14 pounds of Chinese food and then you eat a quart of ice cream, like that that kind of reflex to keep devouring, you can create that with something as simple as these mushrooms with the right amount of salt. So yeah, good question. See, I love questions. Can you cook garlic too long? You can cook anything too long. You can. I mean, if you cover it and you roast it in the oven, like steamed, covered, and it doesn't burn, I mean, it's so good when it's mush, you can whisk it into a sauce or thicken a vinaigrette. I don't know, that would take a long time. I think you can cook garlic for a minute, eat it raw, or cook it for 3 hours. That's why it's so good everywhere, because it just forgives you. It's like, I don't care. Go ahead, do whatever you want. Other questions? Yes. Hi. You have a question? Can you have some? Absolutely. I'm sorry, guys. The tasting has been canceled. I've got front row VIPs to feed. I added a little bit of dry marsala. You could add some sherry vinegar. You could add whatever little bit of vinegar or fortified wine, something to kind of brighten it and give it some acidity. A little bit of chopped tarragon. And then you want to finish it with just a little touch of sour cream. And my mother used to serve this so simply on toast. You could serve it as is, like with a piece of fish or a piece of meat, right? But somehow she always put it on toast. What? I have 20 seconds left? Guys, I mean, it's bad enough on TV. Now it's got to be in real life, too? I'm not going to make it, guys. I'm sorry. All right, so this, just a little bit of sour cream to finish it, and just right over that toast. See that thyme sprig? See that wonderful juice from just a little bit of sour cream, not that heavy, and really, really meaty mushrooms. All right, I think I'm done. I'm just gonna top it with something else I got from the White House garden that I also use like an herb, which is arugula. Just some arugula leaves right over it. God, I've got 42 point, like a tiny second left. I feel stressed out, guys. All eyes are on me. All right, that's it.